what's up YouTube? In this video, I'll be showing you how to make Mew. If you want to make him, her, it. Mew doesn't have a gender. If you want to make it, here's what you're going to need. You will need some black wool. You'll need white wool, light blue, magenta, and finally some pink wool. Those are the only colours that you're going to be needing, so once you've grabbed those and once you've figured out where you want to make it, I'll be making it right here, you'll want to kick off your Mew with a row of 5 black wool in a row on the floor. That's 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like so. And once you have your row of 5 black wool, this is what you want to do next. You want to take the 4th block coming along to the right here, this 4th block, and on top of it, you want to do 2 black wool coming directly up, so that's 1 and 2. You then want to do an up left diagonal. So you just want to have something which should look like that, and that's just the separation in the foot, that's just for the toe. So once you've got that taken care of, you now want to come over to the left hand side here from this first block, and starting from this most left hand block, you want to do an up left diagonal. And then go left of it by 1. Then do 2 up left diagonals, so that's 1 and 2. On top of the second up left diagonal, go up by 2. 1, 2. Then do an up left diagonal. And go up by 1. Then do another up left diagonal. And go left by 1. And then go up by 1. Then do an up left diagonal. And go up by 3. So that's 1, 2, 3. Once you've just went up by 3, like that, to give you in total a row of 4 that's kind of just suspended there, you now want to return back down to this block right here that we started going up from, and now from this block you want to go left by, hang on a second guys, by 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You then want to go on top of the 5th block by 1. Place 1 on top like that. Then go left by 1. Then do 2 up left diagonals, so that's 1 and 2. Go on top of the second up left diagonal by 2. 1, 2. What you then want to do is go left of this middle block that we now have in our row of 3, and you just want to go left of it by 1. Then do a bottom left diagonal. Then go down from that diagonal by 3, so that's 1, 2, 3. Then do 2 bottom right diagonals, so that's 1 and 2. Then return to this first bottom right diagonal and do a bottom left diagonal. And go left of it by 1. Then do a bottom left diagonal. And go left of it by 3, so that's 1, 2, 3. Then do 2 more bottom left diagonals, so that's 1 and 2. Go down from that second bottom left diagonal by 1. Then do a bottom right diagonal. And go right of it by 1. But then also go up on top of this right block by 2. Once you've went up on top of it by 2, you now want to return back down to this block that you went on top of, and you want to go right of it by 3, so that's 1, 2, 3. Then do an upright diagonal. And go right by 2, 1, 2. Then do another upright diagonal. And go right again by 2, 1, 2. Then do 2 upright diagonals, so that's 1 and 2. Go up on top of the second upright diagonal until you reconnect. I think I just said until you reconnect. I'll deal with it. Until you reconnect with the other side of your outline. And that should all just connect together and look exactly like that. Once you've got that taken care of, we can now continue on up the body. So once you have reached this point right here, you now want to come up to the upper left side of your mu and you want to locate this block right here, not too hard. Once you've found this block, you then just want to do an up left diagonal from it. Like that. You then want to go up on top of that diagonal by 6. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like so, giving you in total a row of 7. What you then want to do once you have your row of 7 is find the middle block, which should be the 4th block coming up or down, and you want to go left of that middle block by 1. I just eyeballed it, I didn't really have to count, but you want to find the middle block and go left of it by 1. And then you want to go left of it by 1 more, because it turns out that you had to go left by 2. You then, from this second block, want to do a bottom left diagonal. And then go left of it by 2, so that's 1, 2. Then do another bottom left diagonal. And go left by 2, 1, 2. Then go up by 1. Then do another up left diagonal. Go up on top of the diagonal by 1. Then go right of it by 2, 1, 2. Then do another upright diagonal. And go right by 1. You then want to do 2 upright diagonals, so that's 1 and 2. Go up on top of the second upright diagonal by 1. Then go right by 1. Then do an upright diagonal. And go right of that diagonal by 3, so that's 1, 2, 3. Then do another upright diagonal. Go right by 1. Once you've formed this shape right here, you now want to come all the way back over to the left hand side where we have this shape, and you want to locate this block that we started going right of, and you now want to go left of that block by 3, so that's 1, 2, 3. Then do an up left diagonal, and go left by 1. Then do an up left diagonal, and go up by 1. Then do another up left diagonal, and go up by 2, 1, 2. You then want to take both of those 2 blocks and you want to extend each of them to the right by 2, so that's 1 and 2, and this one as well, 1 and 2, giving you this shape. You then want to place 1 block on top of this upper right hand corner of your shape, and you want to do 3 up left diagonals from that block, so that's 1, 2, and 3. Go down from the 3rd bottom left diagonal until you reconnect with that little original shape diagonally, like so. So you just want to end up with a shape that should look a little bit like that. Nothing too complicated about that, I hope. Once you've got that taken care of, you now want to come to the top of this weird shape that we have here, and from this block you want to do an upright diagonal. And go up by 2, 1, 2. Then do an up left diagonal. Then go up by 2, 1, 2. Then do an upright diagonal. And go right by 1. Then do a bottom right diagonal. And go right by 1. Then do a bottom right diagonal. And go right by 1. Then do an upright diagonal. And go right of it by 4, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Then do a bottom right diagonal. And go right by 2, 1, 2. You then, once you've placed those 2 blocks going right, want to go down from the middle block of this row of 3 by 1. Once you've went down by 1, you now want to return back over to this right hand block, and from this block do an upright diagonal. And then go right of that diagonal by 3, so that's 1, 2, 3. You then want to do a bottom right diagonal. And then go down from it by 2, so that's 1, 2. Then do a bottom left diagonal. And go down from it by 2, 1, 2. Then do a bottom right diagonal. And go down from it by 2, 1, 2. Then do a bottom left diagonal. and go down by 1. Then do another bottom left diagonal and go down by 1. Then do a bottom right diagonal and go down by 1. Then do a bottom right diagonal and go to the right by 1. You then want to do 4 bottom right diagonals, so that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. You then want to go down from the 4th bottom right diagonal by 1. You then want to go left by 1, and then you also again want to go down by 1. Then do a bottom left diagonal, and go to the left of it by 2. 1, 2. Then do 2 up left diagonals, so that's 1 and 2. Go to the left of the second up left diagonal by 1. Then do another up left diagonal. You want to be left with a shape that should look a little bit like this, just to show you the whole little last thing that we've made right here. Once you've reached this point right here, and the reason that I'm showing you this, we now have to backpedal a little bit. So you're going to want to come to this block right here. Shouldn't be too hard for you to find. And once you've located this block, do an up left diagonal from that block. Then go to the left of it by 1. Then do another up left diagonal and go left by 1. Then do another up left diagonal and go left by 1. Then do another up left diagonal. You will be left with something that should look a little bit like this, and what you've essentially just made there is Mew's left arm, or right arm, depends what perspective you're looking from. Once you've done that, we now have to backpedal once more. So you want to come and locate this block now. This one right here. Once you've located this block, do a bottom right diagonal from that block. Then go down from that diagonal by 1. Then do another bottom right diagonal. And go down from that diagonal by 4. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. You then want to go to the right of the 4th block by 3, so that's 1, 2, 3. Then do an upright diagonal, and go to the right of it by 1. Then do another upright diagonal, and go to the right of it by 2, 1, 2. Then do 2 upright diagonals, so that's 1 and 2. Go on top of the second upright diagonal by 1. Then do another upright diagonal, and go up by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then do an up left diagonal, and go up by 1. Then do another up left diagonal, and go up by 1. Then do another up left diagonal, and go up by 1. Now do 2 up left diagonals, so that's 1 and 2. Go up on top of the second up left diagonal by 1. Then do another up left diagonal, and go up by 1. Then do another up left diagonal, and go up by 3, so that's 1, 2, 3. Then do an upright diagonal, and go up by 2, 1, 2. Then do 2 up left diagonals, so that's 1 and 2. Go to the left of the second up left diagonal by 2, 1, 2. Then do 3 bottom left diagonals, so that's 1, 2, and 3. Go down from that third bottom left diagonal by 1. Then do another bottom left diagonal, and go down from it by 2, so that's 1, 2. Then do a bottom right diagonal, and go down by 1. Then do 3 bottom right diagonals, so that's 1, 2, and 3. Go to the right of the third bottom right diagonal by 1. Then do 5 bottom right diagonals, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Go down from that 5th bottom right diagonal by 1. Then do another bottom right diagonal. Go down by 1. Then do another bottom right diagonal. And go down by 2. 1, 2. Then do a bottom left diagonal. And go down by 1. Then do a bottom left diagonal. And go left of it by 2. 1, 2. Then do a bottom left diagonal. And go left by 1. Finally do another bottom left diagonal and go left of it by 1 to give you something which should look, I just want to show you guys this, which should look a little bit like this. That whole entire section that we've just made right there is just Mew's entire tail, and that was absolutely awful. I hated making that. Once you've finished with the tail, we just have one little bit of outline left to do. So come back down to here, this block right here where we have this like bottom left hand corner thing, and from this block you want to go to the left by 1. You then want to go down by 1. You then want to do 3 bottom right diagonals, so that's 1, 2, and 3. Go to the right of the 3rd bottom right diagonal by 1. Then do another bottom right diagonal. Go to the right of it by 1. Then do another bottom right diagonal. And go down from it by 3. 1, 2, and finally 3. All being well, that 3rd block should connect all the way back to where we first started to give you Mew's foot. And once you've done that, you should be left in total with Mew's entire outline. There you go, that's looking very Mewy, isn't it? Ah, that was a nightmare, the tail especially. Ah, I hated doing that. This next bit's a little bit worse though, we've got to colour Mew in now. So, once you have reached this point right here, it's now time for us to have the fun of colouring Mew in, and this is going to kind of be difficult for me. A lot of this colouring in process I'm gonna just have to do, and you guys are just going to have to copy the end result. You're just going to have to take a very close look for yourself and just copy off of my work. I won't really be able to give you very good instructions. So once you have reached this point right here, colouring in time. So come all the way up to Mew's head. I think we'll take care of the left hand side of the head first, and then we'll do the much harder right hand side of the head. So first of all, colour in Mew's head in. We've just got to first colour in this left eye, which all you have to do for that, you just place that 1 white wool and the 2 light blue in that little section that's sectioned in around the black. Very simple. We now have to do one of Mew's eyebrows, which should look a little bit like that, just around the eye. You can use pink instead of just doing diagonals, by the way. I just have a habit of doing the diagonals, so you just want to then do that above the eye. As I said, that's just one of Mew's eyebrows. It's just a shadow. And then there's also a little bit of magenta in this top corner here. Mew is pretty much only comprised of 2 colours, pink and magenta. Magenta is a darker colour, basically used for just showing shadows on Mew, and that's the hard bit. Everything else is pretty easy. The hard bit, as I've said, is just going to be placing magenta, explaining wise anyway. So just place magenta all the way around there in that upper left hand ear. That shouldn't be too hard for you to do. Just look at it and copy it. So once you've taken care of the left hand side of Mew's head, we now have the fun of taking care of the right hand side, which is a lot harder. There's a lot more to do. So come down to the bottom of Mew's head and locate this row of 4 black wool right here. On top of this row of 4 black wool, stack 2 rows of 4 magenta, like that. And then this next part I'm not even going to try and explain, as I mentioned a couple of times already. I think I've backtracked a few times. I'm just going to do this and then show you guys the end result. I really do think that this is going to be much easier this way, so I'm just going to very quickly do that. So that is what you want to have. Whoops. So that is what you want to have for Mew's right eye. Almost missed out on one black wall there. Glad I caught that. That is what you want to have for Mew's right eye. Very, very simple. There's not too many long rows in there. Should be very easy for you guys to emulate. You get your 2 rows of magenta and it's easy from there. Once you've taken care of that, of course, pause this if you have to, copy that out. Once you've taken care of that, we now just have to add an eyebrow whilst we're here. So on top of this single black wool that we have in the upper left hand corner of the eye, just do 2 pink wool coming up from it, then a magenta on top, a magenta to the left, and then a magenta bottom left diagonally to take care of Mew's right eyebrow. Should just look a little bit like that. Now, once you've done that, that is the last bit of explaining that I'm actually going to do. So what I'm now going to do is I'm just going to add a lot of magenta all about the place, and then I'm just going to show you the end result of it, what it should look like, because there's no way that I can explain the placement of this magenta. It's way too random, but it is really easy to see though, as I keep saying. I mean, it's really easy to see just because it sits all the way next to the outline, and the outline is broken up so much into tiny little squares and patterns. It's so easy to see what you have to do that it just doesn't need explaining. I'm sure that you guys will see my point once I've just finished this little section right here. I am splitting up the magenta placement. I'm not going to place it all in one go and then show you guys the whole end result of it. I'm not that cruel. I am, however, as I said, just going to do this little section right here and then show you. So this is all of the magenta that exists on Mew's upper body / right hand side of the face. That shouldn't be too difficult for you to see. A lot of it is really sandwiched next to the outline and into little crevices like the upper part of the arm there. Really easy to see how you've got to add that in. It's all really confined next to stuff that's easy to, it just makes it easy to measure everything out. So pause this video right here, add in the magenta in all of those relevant places, and then you can start again and we'll do the next part. So we're now going to do Mew's lower body, and then we'll do the tail. So again, just the exact same procedure. I'm just going to fill in Mew's entire lower body. It's a little, I've got my plans at kind of like a weird angle, so this has taken ever so slightly longer than expected. It's not because it's difficult to place or anything, it's because I can't particularly see them. However, I don't want to change them because it will take a fair amount of time, so I'm just going to have to, I'm going to have to deal. So there's not that much more magenta that we have to place for the body here. We've also got a little bit around the toes. I actually hate these parts of the tutorials, by the way. I hate having to explain things like this, as I'm not really explaining it. This is the most loathed part of the tutorial for me. I actually like the parts where I can tell you guys and instruct you guys what you actually have to do. This is... I don't like these parts at all, but there you go. That is what you want for all of the magenta that exists on Mew's lower body. Again, most of it does really just sit directly next to the outline, and it should just be really easy for you to just look at this, pause the video right here, and add it in for yourself, which is what you should do. Pause the video right here, add it in for yourself, and we can move on to the final stage of the magenta, which is just the tail here. So I'm going to take out the magenta once more, going to add all of the magenta that exists in the tail, and then we can just mass fill in the rest of our Mew with our pink wool. Which, by the way, I almost contemplated skipping out the magenta for Mew and just having pink just to avoid this. That is how much I really do dislike having to explain things like this. So there you go. There's not really that much magenta in the tail. I know I'm very zoomed out, but I'm sure that you guys will manage to add that no problem. There's not much to it whatsoever. The tail's very skinny. You shouldn't have too much trouble adding in your magenta. So pause the video here, add the magenta to the tail, and once you have done that, the only thing that you now have to do to your Mew is just fill everywhere else inside the outline with your pink wool, which is exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'll be back in a moment once I've fully filled in the Mew. So this is what your Mew should look like once it's been 100% coloured in. As I said, all you have to do to finish off your Mew, once you've added in all of the magenta and the eyes and what have you, you just have to fill everywhere else in with pink. And it's really not that difficult of a colour scheme. I think that if you take care of both of the eyes and you take care of a couple of the floating bits of magenta for the eyebrows, I think that everything else is pretty simple to do. As I said whilst I was building it, all of it exists next to the outline or very close, or it all sits right next to features, like all of the magenta sits either around the eyes or very close to the outline of the head, and same thing with the tail and the lower body. I don't think it will be too hard for you guys to apply this for yourselves. I'm sure that even some of you could just pause it right here and build just about the whole thing just from this view right here. So hopefully you guys have managed to build this for yourself. Hopefully the colouring in process didn't throw you off at all. That's probably the hardest part of this. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. I don't know what Pokemon I'll be making next. I'll pick a random one. I don't know whether it'll be a legendary. It'll probably be a legendary. I might go back to either Ruby or Sapphire. Or I might even make Mewtwo. I'm a big fan. I don't know. See you in the next video.